Hey guys, Maelstrom here with Whispers in the Well Day 1 deck lists. Season 2 is well underway, and this set is looking like it's going to create a new era of Disney Lorcana. The game as we know is shifting, and we are here to help you weather the storm.
Hey there everybody, Bannibal here, bringing you my take on Purple Steel for the Whispers in the Well format. Now, Purple Steel just won DLC Milwaukee in the hands of Frank Karsten, and is obviously one of the strongest decks from the prior format, and I think it got a lot of awesome new tools from Whispers in the Well, so I'm going to run you through mostly just the new things. I think the rest of the deck's relatively stock. I cut some 4-drop Beastmas that were pretty typical for some of the newer cards, but we have 4 Black Herons, and the 2-drop slot was always a little bit annoying in Purple Steel. You could play the 2-drop Raja if you wanted, but Vanish is an annoying weakness that you don't have to have now. You can just play the Black Heron. It's a 3/3 for 2. No downside, very, very strong board control tool for the early game. You get, similarly, another strong board control tool for the early game in Lexington. Lexington can replace the Dragon Genie, 3-drop Dragon Genie that we had before. That 4th point of power, actually very relevant. Takes out Daisy, takes out the new Raja. Has always been an important break point. And, of course, just controls the board very well. Now you have 2 4/4s you can play on turn 3, which is very, very consistent if that's important to the matchup. In addition to those cards, we have the 5-drop Hades. Now, 5-drop Hades is an interesting card. These cards that give you one of 2 powerful abilities but your opponent gets to choose are always a little bit worse than they look, but I do think that in the vast majority of cases, either 2 cards or a removal effect are both going to be very strong. And so, yes, your opponent gets to choose. It's maybe not always going to be optimal for you, but it will be good kind of no matter what. And then finally, we get to round out our curve with the new 6-drop Demona. Demona pairs very well with our big bodies, cards like Lexington, Giant Cobra, Calhoun, Black Heron, by exerting all of your opponent's characters, and then you also get to use it as a card draw tool. So I think that's very, very powerful as far as the top end in a mid-range deck like this. And finally, we get to round out our removal suite with 3 copies of He Hurled Thunderbolt. You could certainly play 4 copies of this card, but it is uninkable, so I only have 3 here. And I think that this is just sort of the last piece. The thing that Purple Shield really wished it had last set was one more removal spell, because when you only have 3 copies of Strength of a Raging Fire, the power level of your draws depended pretty heavily on the number of strengths you drew, and it just wasn't that consistent with only 4 in the deck. But now we have as many as 7 removal spells in our deck, which is really, really nice. Overall, I do think that the position of something like a Purple Steel deck is going to depend on what the rest of the metagame looks like, but I would be surprised if there wasn't a way to tune a Purple Steel deck to combat whatever other people are playing.
It's been a long, cold meta. I thought long past were the days where I could bask in the warmth of Pride Rock and relax peacefully in the kingdom of everything the light touches. But just as he did in the original Lion King, Simba returns to bring hope back to the Pride Lands. I'll be honest, once I saw Simba, I was not hopeful at all. A 7-cost character with a 3 ink investment every turn is a tall ask in a format as fast as the Fabled meta brought. But with the format looking to slow down, the allure of my personal Green Goblin mask proved too powerful, and I got to testing. And I am so happy that I did. I present to you Ruby Himba. Simba, much like his father before him, synergizes with a heavy character build. Simba's cost makes cost reduction super appealing and pivotal to this deck. While we don't have the cost reduction powerhouse that was Gaston, we do have Pluto and Huey in a full 8 copies. Mowgli comes in hot in the 2-cost slot as a solid interruption piece to get rid of some of those pesky non-characters that might cause us some issues. You'll notice that we have a full 12 bodyguard characters. These are ways to protect our cost reducers, as well as just having large roadblocks in later stages of the game to protect some of our more valuable assets like Simba. Raja specifically being able to come down on turn 2 after a Pluto reminds me of the Chapter 1 plays of Lilo and Simba, but this cat's got a full-grown set of claws with a potent stat line of 3/4, meaning most things will be safe from challenges for at least the first few turns of the game. Scar and the Headless Horseman are pretty key early game removal tools, coming down as early as turn 3 if we have cost reducers on both 1 and 2. These will disrupt Clarabelle shift lines, as well as some other potent challengers or combo pieces. Scrooge McDuck makes the list as a way to trigger Simba for free the turn he has played, which can lead to some pretty amazing turns if the top of the deck is kind enough to you. Simba flipping another Simba will trigger an additional flip with the Scrooge on the table. Donald makes the list as a way to draw cards in this Rapunzel-less landscape. One of the reasons he never made the Mufasa decks of old was because Mufasa typically activated on the opponent's turn and Donald's ability would go wasted. Simba activating on your turn opens up the ability to use him as a draw engine if we happen to flip into him. And of course, we have Stitch and Maleficent, because reasons. Lastly, if you have followed any of my Mufasa journeys, you will know I am typically a 60 character deck. But with the slight weak spot we have to larger evasives, the Horseman Strikes rounds out the list as an easy way to answer those Dumbos and Sharks that the Headless Horseman can't take care of. There are plenty of tech options available, and I encourage you all to test your own ideas and even explore other color pairs. He may be classified as a Whisper, but Simba has the ability to roar while he's in play.
Wonderland here, and this is my Whispers of the Well Day 1 deck list, and I'm going back to a favorite of mine, Emerald Steel. I've had some success with this before, once or twice, and I'm really happy to be able to sleeve it up again and try it out. You know, we have a bunch of new cards added from the new set, like at least 4 powerful cards, a couple removal cards, and then 2 Webby Vanderquacks, which she's gonna maybe be the best card in the set. It's possible to say. She counteracts ramp quite well. She has ward. She quests for 2. She's a lot better than she looks initially. And we're just going to try to play some traditional card advantage cards that don't actually draw cards. We're not playing Doc this time around. We don't have Sad Beast or Diablos anymore since they rotated, or Prince John. So now we're using like Max Goof to try to replay cards from our discard and to get our card advantage that way. And we're going to try to use Prince Philip and Malicious, Mean, and Scary to get a big 3 or 4 for 2, while also leaving us with this big shift monster that we're gaining lore with. And to help combo with the new card Malicious, Mean, and Scary, we're playing Fire the Cannons to help finish something off. We're using the Anna. We can play that, pay the extra 2, and then banish something that we stack to damage on. We can also just like sing 1 and play 1 in the same turn, you know, if we draw 2 and put 2 on everything, and that should answer quite a few little swarms of characters that need to be banished. Kind of relying on Scar and You're Welcome to draw us a few extra cards the old-fashioned way, and then maybe using the You're Welcome to target one of our own characters to shuffle our deck as well, so that way Max Goof puts all these really good actions on the bottom of the deck, and then we shuffle our deck, and then maybe we can start drawing them up again. And you know, we're relying on Calhoun to have some early interaction to prevent our opponent from rushing over us, mixed with Fire the Cannons, and you know, just shifting Webby. And the small version of Webby here, you know, she gives +1 strength to another character if she comes into play, so she can come in and buff up a Mulan or a Bobby or an Ursula or even a Calhoun, you know, push through, take a Daisy down that way. You know, I think this has a lot of potential. Obviously, it's really early in the set. We kind of need to see where the meta lands before we really want to push one way or the other, either more control or more card draw or discard. I kind of wanted to play Docking here, but it's difficult to play Dock when we're playing a bunch of 6 cost plus cards in our deck. We're trying to shift to Prince Philip. With Dock, sometimes you just get stuck on 3 or 4 ink, and you just have to hope to draw out of it. And you can't really do that if you're playing Prince Philips. But in the future, I could see maybe adding Sudden Chills in here to try to give another, you know, punish those slower decks, or a ramp deck that uses all of its card to ramp out, and then using a Clarabelle, maybe we can snipe that Clarabelle out with a Sudden Chill, maybe add some chips, take out the Scars and the You're Welcome possibly, and then, you know, combat it that way. We might not need as many 1-drops. I'm really interested to see where this archetype takes off, and to see what versions you all come up with as well. I think you should have fun with this in the first week, and good luck.
Hey guys, Xenulous here, bringing you my Day 1 Emerald Amethyst list for Whispers in the Well. This version of the deck is a new take for me, but I've really been enjoying the results so far with the new tools added in this set. The first cards I want to go over are Webby Vanderquack, Mystery Enthusiast, and her shift target, Junior Prospector. This is probably hands down the best card in the game when going second, being a card that shifts for 2, has ward, and punishes your opponent for, well, being ahead of you. This card allows you to ink the top card of your deck when she quests if your opponent has more ink than you, allowing you to keep up with the aggressive ramp packages from Sapphire decks and getting us closer to the in-game goals that this deck has built in. As you can see, every low-cost character we have is a shift target, constantly putting pressure on your opponent and forcing them into situations where they have to guess which character could be the biggest threat. Cusco threatening to banish a character, Mother Gothel threatening to bounce a character, or Clarabelle coming down and drawing you as many cards as your opponent has, just creates so many no-win situations when leveraged properly. But we can't go without talking about the newest board wipe combo in the deck. Malicious, Mean, and Scary is a 3-cost song that allows you to put a damage counter on every character on your opponent's side of the board. Because this isn't a targeted effect, it hits through ward, making it so that no character is safe from this song. By itself, it's just a little annoying, but Prince Philip finally has his time to shine, coming down and banishing every opposing character with a damage counter. In early testing, this has been a very consistent combo to pull off, and something we are easily able to get to if we utilize Webby effectively in the early game. The rest of the deck is just filled with disruption to make sure we can keep the advantage no matter the situation. Mother Knows Best can help keep us board tempo in any stage of the game. You're Welcome being additional card draw for us by bouncing one of our characters, or bouncing an opposing character while we have a Clarabelle in play can keep card advantage at any stage in the game. If you keep on looking, you'll see we have Under the Sea and Bend in My Will to control the board even more, or control the resources that our opponent has available to them to keep us in a flexible position no matter what matchup you happen to be facing.
Hello everyone, Sailor back here for another week 1 deck list. This time for Whispers in the Well metagame, the very new powerful set 10 for Disney Lorcana. I'm bringing back Ruby Sapphire Gumshoe. This is a detective-centered deck that plays mostly Sapphire cards, tons and tons of ramp, the new Cinderella, along with the reprint of the Mickey Detective to get to high ink total without actually spending too much card out of our hand and jamming some very powerful removal. So Maleficent Monstrous Dragon are back, Shark is back, Hades never left, and we run one of the most powerful draw engine in Sapphire nowadays is the new detective archetype, right? Package, I will say. And it's based around the 4-cost Judy Ops, where every time you play her and quest with her, you get to look at the top 3 cards and pick up any detective. So you're able to chain a bunch of characters with all your ink that you gathered with your Sail, Tipo, Mickey Detective, Cinderella, and Spooky Sight, right? On your own Basils and Tipos and Detective Mickeys, as well as your opponent's. So you give all the ink to your opponent, you give all the ink to yourself, you don't care because you're playing bigger, badder stuff. And then you, if it's not enough to refill through the detective, you also have the Dig a Little Deeper as another type of card draw that supplements you from playing those very big, hard to get rid of characters that are good singers. So the absolute nuts is to actually go Cinderella, Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, sing Dig a Little Deeper, and find more dragons. Rah! This list is very fun to play, and it's quite powerful. Maybe not tier 1, but close to it. So I think you can have a ton of fun with this. We're also playing the 6-drop Detective Judy Ops. That means that you can get rid of other evasives. You have Shark to also do that. You have Hades, Monstrous Dragon. So a bunch of different ways to deal with evasives. And that new Judy Ops also stacks, right? So you can get resist 2, but if you have 2 on board, resist 4, or 3, resist 6. And then you're just basically taking out everything while also not receiving damage. Very, very fun and powerful build. And I'm excited to jump in right into Whispers in the Well. I wish everyone a good release and have fun.
Hello? Is this the We're So Back department? I'd like to file a claim.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy RMB back at it again. 10th time in a row now, trying to convince you that Blue Steel is going to be one of the best decks in the new meta. Well, Illumineers, this time I might not actually be coping. Whispers in the Well is here, and boy did the dev team at Ravensburger show us some massive love this set. So first and foremost, I want to go over what I believe to be the 3 best cards from Whispers in the Well. Number 1, Cinderella Dream Come True. Number 2, Goliath Clan Leader. And number 3, Webby Vanderquack Jr. Prospector. And we get to play both the number 1 and number 2 cards in the same deck. 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Goliath. Let's take a look at some of the new cards from Whispers in the Well making their way into the new face of Blue Steel. Cinderella Dream Come True. Undoubtedly the best card in the set. This uninkable 4-drop princess says, at the end of your turn, if you played a princess character this turn, you may put a card from your hand into your inkwell face down to draw a card. This card is like Fishbone Quill and Chicha Dedicated Mother combined. It allows you to ink uninkable cards from your hand and draw a card to replace it. Oh, did I mention she triggers herself? Totally fair and balanced, right? We also have a supporting cast of the 1-drop Mulan, Kita, and Namari as additional princesses to trigger the Cinderella additional times in subsequent turns. If you're ever able to get multiple Cindy's in play, you can order your triggers at the end of your turn. You can ink draw, or even choose one of the triggers and not the other, as you put all of these triggers in the bag and choose to pull them out in any order that you wish so you can craft the perfect hand. Goliath, Clan Leader, in my opinion is the second best card in the set. Goliath's like a big old Doc on steroids that can also force greedy opponents to discard down to 2 cards in hand. Goliath says at the end of each player's turn, if they have 2 or more cards in hand, they choose and discard cards until they have 2. If they have fewer than 2 cards in hand, they draw until they have 2. So the idea is for us to ramp on turn 2, preferably with a Tipo, into a Cinderella on 3, on turn 4, ink, play Goliath, sing Thunderbolt, and end the turn with 0 cards in hand and draw 2. Your opponent then needs to be able to answer an upright 6-5 on their turn 4, which isn't always the easiest task, or they're forced to discard down to 2 at the end of their turn. Even if they have answered the Goliath, we've already drawn 2 new cards, and we can continue to filter to additional draw tools like more copies of Goliath, Beyond the Horizon, Sail, Develop, or any of our filtration with Namari and Mulan. I do think that the skill ceiling on Goliath is, however, very, very high. It's not always correct to try and turbo out a Goliath on turn 4, so be mindful. The Headless Horseman, Cursed Rider. I absolutely love the Headless Horseman. As someone who is a huge Yogg-Saron enjoyer in Hearthstone, I can't pass up a little bit of RNG. And the Headless Horseman is an 8-cost inkable 5/7 that quests for 2. Real Himba statline vibes. If you know, you know. He says when you play this character, each player draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards at random. Then you choose an opposing character and deal 2 damage to them for each action card discarded this way. The damage typically ranges anywhere between 2 to 12, but on average it's hitting for about 4 to 6. Every now and then you'll get some 8s, you'll also get some 0s sometimes. But massive body that has the potential to wipe anybody that's gonna see any amount of play is already really good. But the primary reason we're running this Horseman with no head is to break up the Emerald Prince Philip combo pieces. It's already somewhat difficult for the Emerald decks to piece together all 3 pieces, but between the Horseman and Beyond the Horizon, we can often prevent them from getting their combo off. He hurled his Thunderbolt. With Whispers, we are welcoming the Good and Gather version of And Then Along Came Zeus. Instead of dealing 5 like its forefather, Thunderbolt deals 4 damage to chosen character, but has an additional line of text that may prove to be relevant. Your deity characters gain Challenger 2 this turn. And wouldn't you know, we got the best deity in the game in this deck in Hades Infernal Schemer. Keep on the lookout for the opportunity to take advantage of a value trade with Hades as a 5/6. Now your primary game plan is going to be to ramp on turn 2 and ramp on turn 3, and then assess from there. You're either going to get a Tinkerbell down and start dominating the board, Play a Goliath to start generating insane amounts of card advantage while simultaneously forcing your opponent to potentially discard down to 2 cards. Filter some draws, draw more cards, play bombs turn after turn after turn, forcing your opponent to answer you every step of the way. The only cards currently not included in this list that may make their way into the list in the future, just depending on how the meta shapes up, are going to be Pete Games Referee and potentially some number of Spooky Sight. Either way, I'm super excited to be slinging some new Zoolander again, and I recommend that you try it out for yourself.
That's it for today, guys. We hope you enjoyed the deck lists. As the meta progresses, we will be updating these lists in our Discord every week, so check us out over there. Like and subscribe to the channel as it really helps us out, and we'll see you in the next one.